Okay, so today we're going to find slope from tables, which means we're going to be looking for patterns. So if you are good at counting by fives or counting by threes or subtracting six and looking for patterns, this is going to be super easy for you. Okay, super easy. Now, as we start this, I want you to think about what are all the ways that we have talked about describing slope. Okay, so we know that slope is rise over run. Okay, we know slope is rise over run. We also know that we've talked about up, down, and to the right. Okay, we've talked about up, down, and to the right. The ones we're going to be talking about today are going to be patterns. Okay, and we know that slope is the y over the x. Okay, the y is on top. That's my up, down. So we're going to be talking about the change in y or the change in x. So that triangle, that means change. So specifically, we're going to be looking at pattern. Pattern of the y over the pattern of the x. Okay? Pattern of the y over the pattern of the x. And remember, slope is a fraction. It is the rise over the run. Okay? The rise over the run. Okay, so keep in mind that slope and rate of change are the same thing, okay? Rate of change and slope, they mean the same thing. It's just different terminology. And we've talked about this formula. Today we're going to talk about this formula, and tomorrow we're going to deal with that formula, okay? All right, so here we go. We're looking for patterns. And this, we kind of touched on this as we started the chapter when we were doing tables. But I want you to think about, what is my pattern here? How am I going from -3 to -1, -1 to 1, 1 to 3, 3 to 5? And you see how this is getting bigger. So if it's getting bigger, I know that I am adding. Okay, and all of these are adding 2. They're all adding 2. Okay? Let's move this other side. -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. That is +1. Okay, that's +1. All of these are +1. And I do need to double check that I'm correct. Okay? Now, this is the change in y. This number is the change in x. And remember, our slope is the y over the x. So my slope, rate of change, is slope +2 over +1. Is that going to simplify? Sure, it simplifies to 2 over 1. We're done. Okay, we're done. Let's look at the next one. 6 to 4, 4 to 2, 0 to -2. Notice how this is going down, so I know I'm going to be negative. I am subtracting 2. What's happening on this side? -4 to 0, 0 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 12. If you said that's adding 4, you're correct. Again, y over x, so -2 over 4. Is that simplified? Is that simplified? I'm going to go ahead and pull up my calculator here. -2 divided by 4. -1/2. So my final answer is -1 over 2. All right, let's keep going. What's going on here? How do I go from 2 to 2 and 2 to 2? That's a 0. It's not changing. How do I go from 6 to 3, 3 to 0, 0 to -3, -6? That's getting smaller. So this is -3. So my slope would be 0 over -3. Well, what does that mean? What is 0 divided by anything? It's 0. 0 divided by anything is 0. All right, let's take a look at this one. Why don't you hit pause and see if you can come up with your slope on this problem. Okay, let's see how you did. Negative 3 to 3, 3 to 9. That is a positive 6. But then it skips. Okay, it skips. And it goes 21 to 33, and that's plus 12. And 9 to 21 is plus 12. So is that okay? Yeah, it's okay, because notice how this here is counting by twos, and then it skips and it went by 4. So this, it doubled, and so did this. So it is very okay that this is linear, okay? So when I find my slope on this one, I have to use one complete set of information. So I can either use the 12 and the 4, and that's positive, or I can use the 6 and the 2. Okay? And let's see what happens if I do that. So I have my 12 divided by 4, that's 3. 6 divided by 2, that is also 3. So my slope on either one of those is 3 over 1. It's 3 over 1. Okay, let's look at this next one. 6 to 4, 4 to 2. Hopefully you see that that is a negative 2. What's going on over here? That's a 0. So again, y's go on top. So negative 2 over 0. Well, can I divide by 0? I mean, I know I can do this one. So 0 divided by 3 gives me 0. What about negative 2 divided by 0? It gives me undefined. So this is an undefined slope. Okay? That is an undefined slope. I cannot divide by 0. That doesn't make any sense. How do you take 2 of something and break it into 0 parts? You already have 2. All right, one more. 4 to 3, 3 to 2, 2 to 1. That's a minus 1. Negative 4, negative 1, negative 1, 2, 2, 5, 8. Hopefully you're seeing that's a plus 3. So negative 1 over 3. Is that going to change? Negative 1 divide 3. It is not going to change, so that one is finished. Okay, so this time we're actually going to find the slope, the intercept, and the equation. Okay, the slope, the intercept, and the equation. So this one requires me to work a little harder. All right, let's start by finding my slopes. How do I go from 10 to 5? That's a minus 5. How do I go from negative 2 to 0? That's a positive 2. Is that the consistent pattern? It sure is. So negative 5 over 2. Negative 5 over 2. Let's go ahead and find our slopes on all of these, and then we'll come back and find our intercepts. So 10 to 6, minus 4. Negative 5, negative 3, negative 1. That's going to be plus 2. So negative 4 over 2. And hopefully you realize that that is actually negative 2 over 1. Okay, 0, 2. So 0 over 2 gives me a 0 slope. And this next one, this one's a 0. So plus 2, 0, I know that is undefined. I know that is undefined. All right, let's see if we can find our y-intercepts. Okay, so I want to review just a second what this ordered pair is, because that's a y-intercept. What is that ordered pair? That is 0, 3. What do you see right there? That is my x value. So my y-intercept is wherever the x is 0. Okay? So if I look here, this is my y-intercept. So that b is positive 5. So my equation would be y equals negative 5 halves x minus 5 on this first one. Okay? All right, let's come over here to 11. We'll come back to 10. Let's go over to 11. Do I see x is 0? I sure do. It's right here. So that b is positive 6. So if I was to write this equation, I could technically write it as 0x plus 6 or y equals 6. I don't have to write the 0. Okay, let's look at our two special cases. We have one where I don't have a 0, and then we have one where we have undefined. Let's start with the one where I don't have a 0. Well, where would 0 be? Well, 0 would be right here, between -1 and 1. So that's halfway in between. Well, what's halfway in between 2 and -2? That is also 0. So my intercept is 0 in this case. So I would have y equals -2x plus 0 or y equals -2x. Okay, now undefined is a little tricky because I don't have a y-intercept because this will never change. This is going to be 5 all the way. So is this one a y equals or is this an x equals? Well, there's the y equals. This one, because it's undefined, does not have a y-intercept. Remember, it cannot touch the y if it's undefined. So that means it is an x equals, and it is an x equals 5 because that 5 is not going to change. Okay, so your task today is to work on slope from a table and a little bit of equation solving from equation development from a table. And tomorrow we will work on what do we do if we don't have a table and we don't have a graph and we're given 2 points and we don't want a graph because it takes too much time.